like this one better anyways. So it's all about self-promoting, and the sad thing is that it touches our teens and our young people the most. If you looked at this study that I looked at, what career do most teens want? Actually, more than half, 54% of teens, what they want is to be famous. That's what they want as a career. It's almost a joke. They see all these YouTube stars, they see all these people on the internet making all this money, doing nothing, playing with toys, all this kind of stuff, and that's what they want to be. These teens want to be a celebrity. And if you ask them, they want to be the GOAT. Okay, who's hip with what the GOAT is? 411. Greatest of all time. Tom Brady, as painful as that is for me to say, is the greatest quarterback. Jerry Rice, the greatest wide receiver. Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player. Mark Duke, the greatest pastor. The GOAT. Yeah. Boom. But it's a problem. It's not bad to be the GOAT, but we got to be sure we know what we're going to be the GOAT of. And that'll come full circle at the end of this thing. When you follow Jesus, it's not about you being the GOAT. It's about him and what you can do for his kingdom. We want to be selfless. You have to deny oneself. That's what it means to be a Jesus follower. Now, we're called to be servants, and it's more than just the action. It is serving in the community. It's serving in your church, but it's more of who you are and what you have in your heart. You want to enjoy it. You just want to be there to serve. Now, let's put up our first verse. The greatest among you will be your servant. This is also going to come around full circle. That is the most powerful verse that we got going on today. That's telling you how to be the GOAT. The greatest among you will be your servant. So I go back to it. What are you always doing? The next verse is Acts 9:36. You want to put that up there? In Joppa, I don't know why you have to say it with an accent, but in Joppa, there was a disciple named Tabitha. In Greek, her name is Dorcas. Well, let's stop right there. Her name is Dorcas. I feel sorry for this lady, but she's actually the first Greek female mentioned in the New Testament, and it actually means gazelle, so she's probably actually fine. She's probably good looking. But her parents named her Dorcas for whatever reason. So Dorcas was always doing good, and she was always helping the poor. So Dorcas, or Tabitha, I'm going to go with Tabitha. Tabitha, she had an amazing ministry going on. She would sew clothes for the poor. She was caring for widows, but it was more than just a small thing. She actually did a whole lot, and her ministry was so important. When the time came where she actually died, I don't know what she died of, but she died, God gave Peter the power to raise her from the dead so she can keep the ministry going, because what she had going on was important. She sparked many and many people to come to know Christ. So he wasn't going to let her go. Dorcas was around for a while. And instead of always self-serving, we need to be more like her. We need to always be serving others. It's more than just the action. It's in your heart. It was in her heart. Now, how do we become a faithful servant? I know I was saying the same thing to myself. You know, I don't have a lot to offer. You may not be good at something, or you don't think you are. I'm not important enough to do something like a ministry like that. Who am I to do these things? You can. You can. And I hope these three simple things that I'm going to bring up are going to be the reason why you can. You remember these three. It's a statement, and then I'm going to have a little story with each one. And just put them in your heart because they're simple, and it'll get you in the mode of how you can serve, how you can help. So the third slide, 1 is bring a lunch. 2 is offer a ride. And 3 is carry a towel. I know, I just lost all you guys. Number 1, bring a lunch. You will understand when I get into this. So bring a lunch. So King David, we all know King David. He was a war hero. He was a brave king, a man after God's own heart. He rose to notoriety when he slayed the giant. He slung the stone, bam, killed Goliath. That's how we know David. He was such a great warrior. He was loved by his people. And actually, women sang songs to him in the streets. I feel like we have a lot in common, me and this David guy. But it has to raise the question, why was he so great? Why was David so great? Most think David is great because he won the battle. He killed the giant. You shouldn't be laughing at that. David was actually great because he brought a lunch. He brought a lunch. He had a servant's heart from the very beginning since he was a young boy, and it shows all throughout the Bible that he had a servant's heart. David was one of 8 of Jesse's kids. He was the youngest son, and when they all went out to fight the war against the Philistines, this was when Goliath was out there, Jesse had him bring a lunch. The next verse, 1 Samuel. One day Jesse said to David, "Take this basket of roasted grain and these 10 loaves of bread and carry them quickly to your brothers. See how your brothers are getting along and bring back a report of how they're doing." You got to understand, David wanted so bad to be in the fight with his brothers. They were all gone except for him. He was home with his dad, and he was going to bring them lunch. How insignificant does that feel? If you want to win the battle, though, you have to carry the basket. Bring a lunch. If you want to be great, you first have to be small and insignificant. Get out of the spotlight. Be others-focused. That's how it all starts. Be selfless, not selfish. Greatest is the one who serves. Bring a lunch. That's number one. It's a statement and a story. Number two is offer a ride. You can bring a lunch or you can offer a ride. You choose. So about 553 years ago, or not 53 years ago, 553 years before this event happened, not that event, but another one I'm about to talk about, it was prophesied by a prophet named Zechariah, and he declared a king would ride into Jerusalem humbly on a donkey. I'm sure most of us know the story, when Jesus took his last ride into Jerusalem on a donkey. Now, a lot of people freaked out and said, that's not going to happen. Our king, our savior, the person that's going to save humanity is not going to come into Jerusalem on a donkey. That's like coming in on a moped. They thought he was going to come in on a beautiful white horse with a flowing mane, a huge robe, and a crown with all these servants around him. So no one believed him. But then 500 years later, this is what happened. Jesus, and this is what happens in the verse, Jesus asked his disciples to find him a donkey for this story that was prophesied over. Luke 19:31. If anyone asks you, why are you untying it? Say, the Lord needs it. Simple command for his disciples. Simple. So when the disciples went out and they tried to look for the donkey, they found one, and they came up on, all we know from the Bible is it's a businessman of some sort. We don't know if he had one donkey or 1,000 donkeys. But what we do know is he said yes, and he offered a ride to the Lord. He didn't, and what we got too from the Bible is he didn't just give him a donkey that had 100,000 miles on it. He was the back in the day car salesman, right? He had a bunch of rides. He gave the disciples the Ferrari that had 0 miles on it with brand new tires to ride. It's an unridden donkey, which makes it even more important. This was probably a very prized possession of this businessman. And he said when he heard the Lord needs it, he simply offered a ride. Why is that so significant? The businessman made a way for Jesus to enter into Jerusalem for his very last ride before he died. Jesus has traveled to Jerusalem a bunch, numerous times in fact, but this final entry was very unique. He was arriving as a humble king on a donkey, like I mentioned, a king of peace. And this is what we need to know. He was a king of peace. He was not the all-conquering king that some thought he was going to be, and he wanted that to be known. So this donkey, this unridden donkey, was very important, and it all started from a businessman who simply offered a ride. Very insignificant for such a large thing. So bring a lunch, offer a ride, and you got number 3, carry a towel. I love this one because this gets down to the roots of servanthood and what it means to be a servant. So just before the Passover, it was a Thursday night. There was a secret meeting with the disciples and Jesus in this building that was on the upper floor. No one knew that they were having this meeting, but Jesus wanted to meet with all of them to go over with him and let them know he was about to give his life for not just them, but for all humanity. And he wanted to explain what all that meant. So this is a very important meeting. But something happened, something ensued. Before he could get going, the disciples decided to have an argument out of all things. When Jesus was going to tell them, I'm going to give my life, I'm going to save humanity, they decided to argue. And what were they arguing over? They were arguing over who was going to be the GOAT, the greatest of all time disciple. John, I'm the loved one, I'm the greatest, you know. Peter, I walked on water. He walked 2 steps and he fell. You know, come on. Bartholomew, no one even knows Bartholomew's. But there was an argument between all these disciples during such an important time. But this is where the magic happens. John 13:4-5, put that up there. So Jesus got up from the meal. I can just imagine Jesus too, like pissed, like, these guys. So he got up from his meal. He took off his outer clothing, took off his jacket, and he wrapped a towel around his waist, much like a servant would. After that, he poured water into a basin, got down, and started washing the feet of the disciples. Now, in common courtesy, especially back in the, you take off a coat. You take someone's coat when they come to your house, right? You're the host. You offer them a drink. You don't offer them a pedicure. Like, how weird would that be if your buddy did that? But that's what he did. And even then, the common courtesy would be to have your servant wash their feet. And back in the day, you didn't really have donkeys and horses unless you had some moolah. You walked barefoot, you didn't have Nikes, or you walked with sandals, so your feet were probably disgusting. And this was a low and humiliating task, but he went down and did it. And I know some of you freaks probably love feet too much, but you can understand that feet are disgusting. Okay, I know Nicole hates my feet because they haven't been rubbed in years. Hint, hint. But it shows you just the fact that how messed up those feet were. And this man, who knows who he is, don't get it twisted. He understands where he came from and who his father is and what he was sent to do. He decided to get down and wash those nasty feet. And this is a great part. When he was at dinner, he saw his disciples figuring out who's going to be the goat. He was sitting there, and he goes, and what he sees is selfish hearts and dirty feet. And he saw that as an opportunity to show these guys what needed to be done. Jesus stopped doing what he was doing. He got up, he grabbed towels, and he washed their feet. Why is this so significant to us? Because Jesus, the Son of God, was washing feet. The bread of life, the Prince of Peace, the living water, the light of the world, the great high priest, the Lamb of God, the living stone, the righteous judge, the true vine, the King of glory, the chosen one, the King of kings, the Lord of lords, the Alpha, the Omega, whatever you want to call him, he's the one washing the feet of humans. How amazing is that? What does that show you? What does that tell you? That definitely shows you that he did not come here to be served. He came here to serve. And if he's going to serve, what does that show for us? Mere mortals, we are the disciples, and he's washing our feet. So the three statements: bring a lunch, offer a ride, carry a towel. Bring a lunch, offer a ride, carry a towel. When can you serve others? What can you do to serve others? Because when you're serving others, you're serving Jesus Christ. This story I love. This is actually Jesus' words. He's speaking out of this story. He tells a story in Matthew that at the end of time, this gets me because this is kind of the path that we're all heading to. At the end of the story, when he comes down to take us home, he's going to separate all human beings. There's going to be two. There's going to be a group of goats, and then there's going to be a group of sheep. Sad thing is, he's going to look over the goats and he's going to say, I am so sorry, but we didn't know each other. And then he's going to go over here and look at all the sheep. He's going to look at the sheep and he's going to say, welcome to the kingdom I have prepared for you. And he's going to look at us and he's going to say, thank you. He's going to say, when I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. When I was hungry, you fed me. When I needed clothes, you clothed me. When I was in jail, you visited me. When I was sitting at my desk alone at work, you invited me to church. When my village didn't have clean water, you found a way to get me clean water. When I was addicted, you helped me get past that addiction. And we're going to look at Jesus and go, hey, I'm happy to be in heaven. This is what I've been striving for, but I don't know what you're talking about. I didn't do any of those things. I didn't do any of those things for you, Jesus. And he's going to say, you did. Because when you do these to the least of us, you did them all to the glory of me, and you did them directly to me. Jesus says when we do these things on earth now, you are doing it directly to him. What is he going to say to you when you're there? How to become great. It's less about you, more about him, which in turn means more about others. It's simple. If you serve others, you're serving him. It's simple. So I'm sure everyone knows what the Dead Sea is, and if you went to the last trip that our church went, you got to visit it. So the Dead Sea is a very odd place. It's actually the lowest point on Earth. I know that's a kind of a weird fact, but it's the lowest place on Earth. It's 430 meters below sea level. 34% salt concentration. Aquatic organisms like plants cannot simply thrive in this because of the extreme saline environment. Nothing lives in this place. It was named for the lack of all the life in it. It's dead. There's nothing in it. Now, what makes the Dead Sea so dead? It's because it is all the time receiving. It's always pulling something in. It's the lowest place. Water is flowing to it constantly, but it's constantly drying up, and the saline is getting too much, and it's just killing off everything else. It is all the time receiving, never giving out anything. We can learn a lot from the Dead Sea. We don't want to be the Dead Sea. And as Christians, I imagine some of us feel that way sometimes. Because we are always and all the time receiving. We want. We are never giving out anything. And I've gone through phases too in my walk, but everything, there's a lot to it when you combine a walk with Christ. There's rules, there's ways you need to treat people, there's all these things, there's tithing. You may be doing everything right. You may be tithing, praying, you're reading the Bible every day, you're great to people, but something may be missing. You just may not feel right. Serve. That may change. And all of us have a call in our life, and I've struggled with this forever, but we all have a call. He has called every one of us to something very specific. Serve, and you may find it. If you have a busy life, a good way to calm down that busy life is to stop focusing on what you have to do, start focusing on the people you have to serve or the church you have to come here and help serve. Imagine if we were all to do that. Now that we're all given to these three things, time, talents, treasures. My son, he's a drummer, and the reason I know he has a talent is because before he was able to drum, and we were in the church at the school, for a short, thank goodness it was a short period of time, I was the drummer, and I have zero capability of drumming. And one of my first songs I drummed was Amazing Grace, and it was the simplest, worst offbeat ever. We got through the worship, someone got saved, I'm pretty sure, boom. But how I know it's a talent is because I went to his lessons one time, and Jason, you're rocking up here, dude. I love it when you're up here. Yeah, and when I went to his lessons, he's learning Amazing Grace right now because he wants to serve. He wants to use his talent, and he's doing these crazy fills in the song. I didn't even know those existed when I did it. It was one straight beat, and this kid's doing all this crazy stuff. So I know it's a talent that's God-given, and he keeps telling his mama, Jill, I want to play 2 services. All 3 songs, I want to do 2 services. So let's pack this place out and get 2 services so he can play. He's 8 years old, and he wants to serve. He wants to jam on the drums for God. He also did cones. Him and my other daughter, we got him to do snow cones somehow. And I think how we did it was my dad bribed him, put a tip jar up there, so they did it. But they did it 3 weeks in a row. And after the 4th week, he's like, can we just take a break? But they did it, and they loved it, and they had fun. And I actually think they put, are you feeling tipsy on the jar, which is totally inappropriate for church, Dad. But they made some money, and then they tithed on it. They made like $20, and they tithed $2. So it showed them at the whole thing. You serve, it feels good. You're giving your buddies, snow cones, and then you get paid for it, and you tithe. It's a wonderful thing. Now, Frank, Mark, Lucy, Franco, and your family, Sammy, Rachel, Mark, and there's plenty others. But you guys are multifaceted in what you do for this church. I know it's not always easy, but you guys are what make this thing run. And from the bottom of my heart and the bottom of everyone else's heart that works at this church, thank you so much for what you guys do. Because this church is nothing without you guys. When you guys are coming early to set up or clean, Chris and Sarah, I know you guys help a lot out too, and when you guys do this, you're carrying that towel I was talking about. You're getting down and you're washing the feet of the disciples. You're doing it in real life. It's wonderful. When you serve, it benefits you, right? We know this. It benefits others, it benefits the church, but it benefits you. When you serve others and you serve your church as a community, you grow. You will see something inside of you that you have not seen before. That's when a lot of character building happens. That's when a lot of fellowship happens. Serve. It will change your life. Now, I know ants and bees are annoying. even more annoying than flies. I don't know what a purpose of a fly is, but to annoy. But I do know that ants and bees have a purpose. So ants, they do all kinds of stuff, and so do bees. They pollinate and they spread all this. And if you actually look at it for the ecosystem, they're amazing, amazing species. But what these two species have in common, besides being annoying, and there's a lot of them, there's a queen, there's a top somewhere, and the whole community serves in a similar capacity for the good of the community. They don't gripe, they don't do anything like that. They serve, and they'll die for the queen. But the beautiful thing is that it takes all of them to do such a little thing, but if you look at it, it's a huge thing when they're all combined. We need to be the ants and the bees, not the flies. We need to be the ants and the bees. So I'm about to read a long passage here. I didn't put it on the screen because it's just too long. And Ron, it's 1 Corinthians. I didn't know it, but it's 1 Corinthians, buddy. So the human body, just bear with me, the human body has many parts, but the many parts make up one whole body. So it is with the body of Christ. Some of us are Jews, some are Gentiles, some are slaves, and some are free. But we have all been baptized into one body by one Spirit, and we will share the same Spirit. Yes, the body has many different parts, not just one part. If the foot says, I am not a part of the body because I am not a hand, that does not make it any less part of the body. And if the ear says, I am not part of the body because I am not an eye, would that make it any less part of the body? If the whole body were an eye, how would you hear? If the whole body were an ear, how would you smell anything? It's kind of a funny passage, but our bodies have many parts, and God has put each part just where he wants it. How strange a body would be if we only had one part. Yes, there are many parts, but only one body. The eye can never say to the hand, I don't need you. The head can't say to the feet, I don't need you. In fact, some parts of the body that seem weakest and least important are actually the most necessary. And the parts we regard as less honorable are those we clothe with the greatest care. So we carefully protect those parts that should not be seen, while the more honorable parts do not require this special care. Insignificant. So God has put the body together such that extra honor and care given to those parts that have less dignity. This makes the harmony among the members so that all the members care for each other. If one part suffers, all the parts suffer with it. And if one part is honored, all the parts are glad. God knew what he was doing when he was putting us together as a human being, and God knew what he was doing when he was putting this church together as a church body. All of you together are Christ's body, and each of you are part of it. That's the end of that verse. Paul was explaining in this passage, in the body of the Christ, everyone has a role, and no role is too small. Think about your pinky toe. To me, my pinky toe was very important to me because I played a lot of sports, and I needed the balance. If you get rid of your pinky toe, your whole body kind of messes up. You're going to be wobbling around. You're going to be doing circles and stuff. You need every part. So what I want us to do today, and a good way to become this servant like I was talking about, it's a quick start. You get in a growth track. We're going to have growth track coming up soon. A growth track is a great time to get involved in the church. You learn about the church. You learn how we planted, where we were, all the good things. But then also in the growth track, it's a time where I think we do tests and we do these little surveys, and it helps you find the place that you would probably best serve in the church if you don't know already. So the first thing is to do is get in the growth track. When you're done with the growth track, you're going to have a good idea of kind of what you want to do. Next thing to do is get on the dream team. We're going to have a dream team meeting, and we're cooking food for everybody. It's a great time to fellowship, and when you're on the dream team, you're going to fellowship with the dream team, not just the people in the church sitting in the pews. You're going to have another family. And if you have kids, bring them in. Teach them to serve at a young age. Serve together with your spouse. It's a great time to serve. It's the dream team. Kids ministry needs help. If you like to greet people, if you're a chatty Cathy, get up there first. Be the first person to start saying hello to everybody. If you want to lead a small group, we got more small groups coming up. Lead a small group. If you want to clean, if you like things nice and tidy, get in here and clean. There's so many things to do. If you're good at making coffee, if you know how to sing, underline know. Not like to sing. If you know how to sing, get up here. We need you. I got kicked off. So get up here. There's plenty of things to do. We'll find a spot for you. You will find a spot. And if you don't like something, we'll move you to another one, and you'll go around and you'll find what you're good at and what you enjoy doing. Because when you're serving and you're enjoying what you're doing for God, it's an amazing thing. There's always going to be things stopping you too. I know Sunday mornings, especially having 3 tornadoes at home, 3 kids, there are so many things that stop you from getting to church. If you are committed to serve, that's one thing that you're going to push forward to go do. There's distractions. There's pride. A lot of people don't want to serve because it's pride. I'm going to come and I want the church to serve me. I don't want to do anything else. There's laziness. There's being the goat. I'm going to be the greatest of all time at something else, and you're not putting the effort. Be the greatest of all time here. So I go back to the very beginning. When I said this is going to go full circle, that question I asked you, what are you always doing? What are people associating with you? He's always doing this. She's always doing this. Are you the lady that always holds the baby? There's always that lady. Do you always open your house? Do you want to open your house for people? Do you want to carry bags for people? Do you want to welcome strangers, like I said, the greeting? Do you love to mentor teens? Do you like to read to that children's ministry? That's where it starts for these little guys. Do you want to cook dinners? I don't, but somehow the Duke family is going to cook dinner next week. Do you want to give coats? Anything you want to do. So when I had those 3 statements, bring a lunch, offer a ride, or carry a towel, it shows you where it happens in the Bible, and it shows you how you can utilize it here in the church. And when we finally get to heaven, when we finally get to meet our Maker eye to eye, imagine sitting there talking to Jesus eye to eye, and he's looking back at you, and he's making the deepest eye contact you've ever seen, and he says, "Well done, good and faithful servant." Well done, good and faithful servant. So that important verse that we had, Matthew 23:11, throw it up there one more time. Matthew 23:11, it's the first one. The greatest among you will be your servant. The greatest among you will be the servant. Let's be the goat, but not how I thought previously. We could be a great church, so let's be great. Thank you, guys.